Hey, I'm Danny, and I want to give you a quick update on the Dwarven Mine Shenanigans game that I'm working on. It's a board game, blah blah blah. I made a prototype recently, a proof of concept. It's a print and play. I put it on my website so people can try it and get some feedback there. Today, I'm looking at coins, money in the game, and how to present it. I've got I dialed in how much money you need. The balance is working pretty good there, but the problem I'm running into is cost. So counters cost money, and it's amazing at how fast the cost goes up. So I basically just did a bunch of experiments, and I'm just going to show you a bunch of experiments. So this is basically like a dev diary kind of a post. Just, yeah, we'll see where it goes. Well, I just did a bunch of calculations. I have a photo for that. So this would be a pile of money for 4 players if I went with 5 colors and these denominations. It's not bad at all. I feel like I can just leave a pile there and you'd be able to work with it, provided you could remember which color was which. You could always make some stickers and put stickers on them, but that's going to add to cost. And at what point does it turn into, why not just print out some cardboard or some chipboard and you just get something nicely printed? So that's interesting. I did the calculations to find out what's the minimum I need to have for each player so that all players could have all the money at once. For example, if every player had 24 gold, the very next gold would bump them up to a 25. So you need 4 and 4 and then 3, because then all of that would be 99 before you got your 100. So if I made a chipboard version of this, these are the numbers I would need to make that happen as well. Another interesting thing I just discovered, so I got these opaque chips because I found that these translucent chips are very hard to find the chip you're looking for because they just pile up in color, which is a shame because these are like a cent and I think these are like 2 cents. So these are double the cost, which is a shame. But I did just figure out something interesting over here. So I reduced it to these placards, thinking, okay, well, now I've reduced it to 3 counters per player, and I still have I guess maybe a money field because I'm drawing the coins at the top. I also did one in another direction. They could be nice. They could work on, say, the character cards. But what I just realized, well, before I say anything else, I'm noticing the size difference here. This looks nice at the moment because it just fits so perfectly on a piece of loose leaf paper, but these are much nicer to be holding. So I'm gonna make sure the size of this supports the bigger cubes. But what I just noticed was those translucent versus opaque cubes that I was just having a problem with. I can see straight through them. So what if this placard had all the numbers inside these boxes and you got 3 of these? That would be 3 cents per player. So for under 10 cents, I could do one player's money up to, what is this? That's almost 1,000. Compared to these, which are about 8 to 10 cents a piece. Okay, so here it is with translucent bingo chips. I think it's kind of nice to look at. 253 seems to just jump out, and then 53 jumps out. So it takes up a lot of space. Like that's a full sheet of paper right there. I'm also experimenting with, okay, well, what if I had like a 1, a 10, and 100? And what was I doing? 2. Yeah, see, I already don't like it. So that would be my 253 again, and then just 53. But I guess if you left them lined up, it might make more sense. Yeah, it's still I was imagining this strip being on the edge of a card, like a player card, and counting outside the player card, which could be a good way to do it. But yeah, I feel like the colors aren't enough. I feel like maybe I would have to have a sticker or something to say 1, 10, 100, and that would make it all make way more sense. But as soon as you add stickers, the costs go up. I'm trying to not label the pieces so that I can use generic parts that cost less. I guess also this takes up a lot of space. I could switch back to these. So what was I doing? I was doing 253. So that's not so bad, I guess. Maybe it's just the size thing that feels weird to me. Yeah, I think they're easier to count when they're offset. Just real quick, these chips right here, they're 3/4 inch. These look to be 3/8, but I'm pretty sure they're measured in millimeters, so they're a 10 millimeter cube. It's amazing how much that shrinks down. The cubes just make more sense, even though I like the discs to represent coins way better. Just a real quick, for scale, this is my current placard, which is 1/4 of a piece of paper, like that. And yeah, this won't even fit on that card. So now maybe I could look for smaller chips here, but honestly what I'm trying to do is only use pieces that I've actually sourced. So like these counters right here, there's 100 in this bag, there's 1,000 on the table here. So I know that I can source these. So if I can work with these, I know I can get them and put them in the games. Same thing with these opaque chips, these translucent chips. Finding a smaller chip, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to do that. So it's interesting that a little bit of real life resource management is coming into play. I think what I'm going to end up doing is making like a version of the game that is low cost as possible and then introducing luxury pieces. So for example, let's say, here's a bag of dice. There's 100 dice in here, there's 4 colors. They're a pretty solid, a pretty standard size. I think they're 16 millimeter. Here's some other dice. They're smaller, but they're translucent and they're gorgeous. Of course, these are a little cheaper. So I'm gonna source all my costs with something like this, but I think I'm gonna find something like that for like a luxury version of the game, just to see if people want to spend extra. I also have to source these dice, and I have found some dice like this in a pretty good pack, but they don't have the colors that I want. So yeah, it's interesting how all these costs are coming together, or should I say not coming together. It also starts to make something like a Kickstarter game make a lot more sense. Because clearly I could source this myself, purchase 100 or 1,000 copies myself, and then sell it all on Etsy. But I couldn't do it with something with more expensive pieces. And with a Kickstarter, when the costs hit a certain level, you can upgrade from these to those. And as part of that, people are excited about putting more money into the Kickstarter, which is kind of a neat idea. Like simple stuff like these hearts are just beautiful. These are right out of the box from, what was it, One Deck Dungeon, and I really like them. Compared to my paper hearts, which are printed, which is going to cost me money to print. So it's like, do I go for something like this? So hold up. Here's a pretty fair example, I think. This is the translucent chip, opaque chip, a cardboard. What is this? I had this printed. I forget which service I used, but basically I had a whole sheet of these printed. So these are custom. and then a cube, and then this heart. So we're looking at 1 cent, 2 cent, 4 cent, 8 or 10 cents, and I don't know how much that is. It's amazing how fast they go up. If I need 10 of these per player and they cost 10 cents, that's $4 on the game right there. So clearly I'm going to go for something like this. 10 of these per player, 40 cents if you use these because they're a penny a piece, 80 cents if you use those. So yeah, it's really interesting. I think I'm just going to put together a version of the game that is going to use the cheapest parts possible and then have like an upgrade kind of an option for the game. So if somebody does want to pay the extra, I don't know, $10 or $20 to get really nice pieces, they can. Okay, I may have something with this. I can bring the numbers closer together and only light up one number in the window. So when I move this, so that might reduce the size of this by half. Okay, that's much better. They light up when you move them. It looks like the hundreds column is going to set the width for the whole thing because there's more numbers inside the coin right here compared to this one. So they need the same amount of space between the numbers regardless of how many digits are in it. So it looks like the hundreds column is going to set the width of the entire thing basically, but it looks pretty good. Here's the size of the player at the moment, so I do think that's going to work. I also, let me compare it to the previous version. So yeah, so there's a huge difference. I'm also thinking I don't need this whole column for the hundreds. So I could take these two strips and put them on this card somewhere, and this I could take maybe up to 4 and rotate it 90 degrees and put it over here. So you could have your hundreds here and then your tens and ones in this direction, possibly. Possibly do the whole thing outside the card. Something like this. So hundreds, tens, and ones, and they would just move like this. But the problem with that is that these would not be lighting up the way they are right now. They would be outside. And I think they would be less obvious what number they're pointing to. Since I have a whole video on this whole counting money thing, I figured I'd go ahead and talk about D10s because I'm sure someone was going to say it in the comments if I didn't already say it. But yes, you could have a D10, and a D10 could equal the hundreds, the tens, and the ones column. And you just have 3 different colors to make that possible. The things that I've noticed about trying to use a D10 to track, there's a lot of picking it up and rotating it around to try and find what you're looking for. And that moment of thinking can mess with your math. So if you're going from I'm at 253 right now. If I go from 253 minus 5, I'm looking for 258. No, I'm 40. Where's my 4? What the hell? Where's my 4? There it is. So yeah, I that was not staged. That was like, I can't believe I just couldn't find a 4. But that's one of the reasons why I really am trying to steer clear of using D10. I haven't sourced the cost on these. I'm imagining they could be like maybe 10 to 15 cents a piece. I don't know. I haven't looked because I decided to not go against it, or sorry, to not go in this direction. The other thing that I've seen happen in other games, say for example, a game that uses D10s for life counters, I have seen people accidentally pick them up and roll them because that's what you do with dice. And to pick up your money and then suddenly not remember how much you had, I think could be a big disaster. So I am purposely steering clear of using D10s for tracking money. So there you go. A bunch of interesting experiments. We'll see where I end up. I'm literally just going to make a bunch of prototype parts and play the game a couple times with them, along with other changes to the game. But I mean, if I could get that money down to 3 like translucent chips that are a penny a piece, that would be 12 cents. That would be awesome. Compared to using the translucent discs for money, and that would be, I wrote it down. That would be $1.28. So if you think about that, just to have those opaque discs to use like coins in this game, it will cost $1.28. That's like the starting cost for the game. And then on top of that, there would be dice. And on top of that, there would be printing out the boards and things like that. So getting this money down to as little as possible, I think is going to make a really big impact on the price. Also, it's going to make a big impact on the game. That's where it's getting weird. Like, yes, I could just put a couple tracks on the player card, and there you go. 3 counters, done. But does it even feel like money anymore? And when you're buying things, is it going to be too much math, basically? Is it going to be just enough brain power for it to not be fun, compared to having a handful of change everyone's used to coins. It's just natural to make change and things like that. So, yeah. So I'm just going to have to try it out. We'll see. So stay tuned. All right. What do you guys think of this style of video? Just this kind of behind the scenes, what's the process type stuff. I personally wish I had found something like this before I started, because wow, what a time saver it would have been to see the different sizes of the pieces and how they're all coming together and how they're affecting everything and the cost and blah, 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 blah. I think this is useful. At the very least, I started making these videos for myself. I started making these videos so I could look back on the experiments I already did and remember the conclusions. So yeah, I think these are fun. I'm curious if they're worth putting online. So if you want to like comment below and let me know what you think. I mean, are they useless or are they interesting? So yeah, talk to you guys later.